Welcome to The Complete Works, an official podcast of FilmBook. The Complete Works is a podcast that delves film by film into the filmography of a Hollywood actor, director, writer, or composer.
If you're returning to The Complete Works, welcome back for another edition. What we do every week on this show, on The Complete Works, is what we're doing is discussing a specific movie from a film actor, actress, director, or composer's film career. Currently, we're working our way through Christopher Nolan, who is a director, and we're looking at his films. Today, we are going to be looking at the film Memento from 2000. And if you'd like to find out more about the Complete Works podcast, you can go to film-book.com. Again, that's film-book.com by using the search term The Complete Works. You can also email us at podcast@film-book.com. Again, that's podcast@film-book.com with The Complete Works in the subject line, or you can put in Memento. Either way is fine. If you like what you hear on this podcast, please hit the subscription button. So when the next edition of The Complete Works is ready, it will be loaded up to wherever you're listening to your podcast at. So like I said, we're looking at the movie Memento from the director Christopher Nolan's film career. And this is something that we do every single week. Is we're going to start off by looking at the trivia of this particular film. We'll start looking at the cast that's in it. We'll look at some of the dollar amounts that was made, how much was spent, etc. We'll look at some of the goofs or mistakes in the movie, just for fun to point it out. And we'll also give you a rundown of what the movie is all about before jumping in and giving you our official score on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. So before we get all of that, let's jump right in and talk about some of the different trivia that you might see in the movie Memento, or just some movie trivia just in general. So there's an Easter egg on the limited edition DVD, and it's a standard Region 2 edition for those that might be wanting to know. So this allows the movie to be watched in the exact chronological order of the events in the film. Now, again, if you're familiar with this film is as kind of played backwards, and we'll get into that in just a few minutes. The first couple of scenes of the regular cut of the movie appear normal in this version, and meaning that they are not reversed. However, this version of the movie on disc 2 is quite difficult to reach, because the user must answer several questions and solve a puzzle. And forward, reverse, and chapter skip capability are disabled. So something that you have to keep in mind when you're watching this film. Okay, and we're looking at the disc. So during Teddy's line, "You don't have a clue, you freak." So the director Christopher Nolan felt that Joe Pantalono, who is Teddy, and forgive me for pronouncing that wrong, did not quite nail the ending of the film, so he decided to re-record the last two words, "you freak," as you hear them, but they're actually being said not by Joe Pantoliani, but actually being recorded by Christopher Nolan. What is really interesting about this whole process, Joe didn't even know that somebody's voice was being dubbed over his, into an interview for Autonomy of Science Memento in 2001. So I thought that was kind of interesting that he didn't even recognize that in the film when he watched it. There is really a medical condition experienced by Leonard in this film. It is a real condition called, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this, so I apologize right up front, intergrado amnesia, and it's the inability to form new memories after damage from hiccups. Of all things, hiccups can do this. The film took just 25 days to shoot. Christopher Nolan's screenplay was based on his brother Jonathan Nolan's story Memento Mori. However, the screenplay is still considered original rather than adopted because Jonathan's story wasn't published until after the film was released in things. So Stephen Tobolowsky has stated that during his audition for Sammy, he had mentioned to Christopher Nolan that he had experience with amnesia personally. So a few years later, he was given an experimental painkiller that induced amnesia for a surgery that he had underwent. And to this day, Stephen said it may have helped him get the part because no other actor would likely have had this type of firsthand experience. Carrie Ann Moss personally recommended Joe Penalino for the role of Teddy, having become good friends with him where they were working on the film The Matrix. Christopher Nolan and his producers had reservations about this because they wasn't sure that Penalino's screen personality, often viewed as a villain, would be the right match for Teddy. But as fate would have it, they met with him and decided that his talent made him the right person for the part in terms of that. Christopher Nolan later praises Penalino for having brought the right amount of performance as Teddy to the film in terms of that. After being impressed by Carrie Ann Moss's performance as Trinity in The Matrix, Jennifer Todd suggested her as a part of Natalie, while Mary McCormick, lobbied for the role. Christopher Nolan decided to cast Moss as Natalie, saying she added an enormous amount to the role of Natalie that wasn't really there on the page. All the dialogue in the black and white sequence that features Sammy was improvised. The film's first matter was conceived of when Christopher Nolan was joined by his brother Jonathan on a late summer cross-country road trip as Christopher was moving to Los Angeles and Jonathan had time before returning to his studies at Georgetown to spend time with his brother, so he helped him move. By the time they arrived in LA, the entire screenplay had been stated out loud between the brothers in terms of that. Although the opening scenes is literally shown backwards, every single word sound effect is in fact a normal forward played sound effect. The only sound played backward is Teddy screaming no. Cinematographer Mark Vargo turned down an interview with Christopher Nolan because he didn't understand the script. He later admitted that this was a mistake, and so Wally Feisner, who got the job, had previous worked with Vargo as a camera operator, and he later admitted to Vargo that he too didn't understand the script either, but he had received the job. Many of Leonard's unique voiceovers were actually improvised by Guy Pearce. According to Christopher Nolan, Carrie Ann Moss shot her whole part of the film in just 8 days. Some other things. The expiration date on Ted's driver's license is 2/29/01, a day that does not exist in reality since 2001 is not a leap year. However, in this fictional setting of the movie, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Or we can say that it does matter or it does appear. Let's see here. Paranoid Android by Radiohead was originally going to be used in the closing credits, but Christopher Nolan decided that the royalties needed to use the song, which was owned by Capitol Records, would be too great for this low-budget film. Memento was considered culturally, historically significant by the U.S. Library of Congress and was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry in 2017. It is Christopher Nolan's first movie to be preserved by the National Film Registry. It is also the first non-documentary film of the 2000s that was actually preserved as well. The test given to Sammy Jenkins involving the electrified objects is based on a real-life case study of a patient, commonly referred to as HM, who suffered from the same form of amnesia following surgery to treat severe epilepsy. A doctor repeatedly shook HM's hand with a joy buzzer, shocking him every time. After a few trials, HM refused to shake hands. The test shown in the movie is an illustration that Sammy's condition is not identified to a real-life case study, but would not have excluded him from insurance coverage. The tattoo parlor in the movie is named after Emma Thomas, who is Christopher Nolan's wife and is the movie's associate producer. Guy Pearce was originally 230 pounds before the movie was made and lost all the weight within a few months for the film. Aaron Eckhart, Brad Pitt, Charlie Sheen, and Thomas Jane were considered for the role of Leonard before Guy Pearce got the part. Christopher Nolan would later work with Eckhart on the Dark Knight 2008 film. Let's see here. After Brad Pitt expressed interest in signing to play Leonard, but ultimately had to pass the project due to other commitments, it's then that Nolan did not consider any other A-list actors because he realized that having a talented but lesser-known actor would allow for the film's budget to be more evenly dispersed. That process led Nolan to nearly cast Aaron Eckhart in the film and eventually was given the part to Guy Pearce. As we all know, Nolan would go on to work with Eckhart, like we said, in the Dark Knight series. At around 55 minutes, the book that Leonard's wife is reading, which begins 2 years have gone by since I finished the long story, is Claudius the God by Robert Graves. The movie marks the first time in a long time collaboration between Christopher Nolan and cinematographer Wally Fierce. They would make 6 more movies together before Wally would actually become a director himself. Christopher Nolan's first choice for the role of Leonard was Alex Baldwin out there. Let's see here. Doris' effort on the main poster of the movie is a reference to Doodlebug in 1997, another movie by Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan's white Honda Civic can be seen parked next to Leonard's, played by Guy Pearce's Jaguar, at the motel. Teddy's phone number 555-0134 is the same as Marley Singer's in The Fight Club, which was released in 1999. Ashley Judd and Angelina Jones were considered for the role of Natalie. The camera that Leonard uses is a Polaroid 690. See here. The introduction footage shows the development of a Polaroid photo in reverse. So instead of getting clear, it fades away. This is extreme. This is an example of what Leonard's ever-fading memory is. The movie was filmed in Southern California, in and around Sunland. Other driving scenes were filmed in Burbank and Victory Boulevard. Dennis Leary turned down the role of Teddy. When translating from Latin to English, Memento translates to remember. Christopher Nolan wanted Peter Demings to be the film's cinematographer, but he was unavailable, having already signed to shoot Scream 3, which was in 2000 and just in 2000. Okay. Carrie Ann Moss and Joe Palento worked together in The Matrix. She played the role of Trinity, and he played Cypher. The address on Teddy's driver's license has a non-existent zip code, which is 94181, transposed from the actual San Francisco zip code of 94118. The address number on Pine Street is an actual street in San Francisco. Sean does not line zip codes of 94118. In one scene, Leonard quickly passes in front of a comic book store. The Batman emblem is displayed promptly on the store's window. Christopher Nolan later directed, like we said before, The Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. There's also a Superman emblem in the same store window. Nolan would go on to produce Man of Steel in 2013 and is the executive producer of Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice of 2016. We'll give you a few more trivia. There's a lot of trivia that's mentioned here. So Carrie-Anne Moss and Camille Keith Rennie both appeared on Due South in 2014. The re-release in Barcelona was in a subtitle version and a 35 millimeter copy. It was only projected one day. Stephen Tolomsky also starred in Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. And the last piece here that we'll give you is Guy Pearce also co-starred with two Matrix alumni, Carrie-Anne Moss and Hugo Weaving, whom he co-starred with the adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, in terms of that. So, just like I said, all kinds of different trivia that's being mentioned about this film. I could give you more and more about this film with some of the trivia, but if you haven't seen the movie, I don't want to kind of give it away with some spoilers. I'll just leave that maybe for another day, for another episode. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the cast. Like I said, Christopher Nolan, he directed it. He was screenplay, one of the writers, and like I had mentioned in the trivia, his brother Jonathan wrote the short story Memento Mori. So Guy Pearce plays Leonard, Carrie-Anne Moss as Natalie, Joe Pantoliano is Teddy, Mark Boone Jr. is Bert, Russ Figa is the waiter, Harriet Sampson Harris, as Miss Jenkins. Thomas Leonard is the doctor. Kimberly Campbell plays the blonde in this film. The box office release was May 25th, 2001. Had a budget of approximately $9 million is what I could find. Opening weekend here in the U.S., it made $235,488. Gross U.S. was about $25,544,867. Worldwide gross was a little over $39,970,386. It is a runtime of 113 minutes. And what is interesting, this is both a color and a black and white film. So it starts off in black and white, and like I said, ends in color. What is very interesting about this particular film, and we'll get to the synopsis here in just a second, is that it's not the traditional film, as many of you have probably already seen this film, but like I said, it's done backwards. So the film is recorded backwards. Or, I'm sorry, it wasn't recorded, it was, everything is seen in reverse. Okay, because he's trying to remember things. So, what is the synopsis of this story? It's a complex story. Let's start off first by saying it's a complex story about Leonard Shelby. Leonard Shelby is played by Guy Pearce. He's a man whose ability to make new memories is damaged when he is struck in the head while confronting two people who are attacking his wife at their home in the middle of the night. He kills one of the attackers during the attack, and one of the last things Leonard remembers is his wife dying. He devotes his life to finding the killer and killing the second attacker. Okay, so the movie alternates between color and black and white sequences, just like I said. The black and white sequences process in chronological order, while anything that is in color proceeds in reverse chronological order. Okay, so anything you see in black and white is going to be in order. Anything that's in color helps to do the reversed chronicle order. And so that's something to keep in mind, and that kind of helps you with the film out a little bit. So the forward black and white scenes and the reverse scenes alternate until they meet in the middle, the story at the end of the film. Hopefully that makes sense to you. In the 2-disc DVD set, the second disc contains the movie in chronological order. To play this version of the movie, you have to select the clock icon, then select the answer C to every multiple choice question, and then 3 arrange the tire change in steps in reverse chronicle order, which is 3, 4, 1, 2, and then the movie begins to play with the credits first in backward order. Some functions, fast forward, chapter skip, etc., has been disabled in the process. Okay. This synopsis describes the scenes in chronological order, is not the plot order presented in the film. And I will tell you, I kind of struggled, went back and forth. On what to do. Should I put this in chronological order, or should I try to do it in the order in which the film was done? And I'll tell you, at the end of the day, I have decided to put it in chronological order. I have done that for my own safety, and I say safety loosely, trying to describe this. Is going to be a bear trying to describe this in reverse order. So in order for I thought it to make sense, I'm going to put it in chronological order. Forgive me if that is not the way that the story should have been done, but it's the way I'm going to do it. So the story starts in black and white. Leonard, like I said, wakes up in a room at a discount inn, puzzled as to why and where he's at. The phone rings and he speaks with an unknown caller. He tells the caller that he suffers from amnesia. It's a condition which makes him unable to create new memories. He describes the condition by telling the story of Sammy Jenkins, who's played by Stephen Tolopsky, who had the same problem. So Leonard describes how one must have a system of notes to be able to deal with this problem and to drive the use of the film. So Leonard says he has the drive that Sammy never had, and the viewer sees Leonard's tattoo, "John G. raped and murdered my wife," as well as other clues and notes that has been tattooed throughout his body. Leonard describes how one must have a system of notes to deal with this problem. Oh, excuse me, I already said that. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to read my notes here. Leonard continues the story and explains that he had just become an insurance investigator when he met Sammy and was assigned to determine whether his condition was covered by an insurance policy or not. Sammy's condition was not like all the other cases of amnesia in that Sammy was unable to learn through conditioning. After additional testing, Leonard says he concluded that Sammy's condition was psychological, and the claim was denied because Sammy was not covered for mental illness. Leonard explains how Miss Jenkins, who's played by Harriet Sampson Harris, met privately with him. In trying to placate her, Leonard sorry guys, lost my notes. Leonard told her that Sammy would be able to make new memories. She tested Sammy's memory by repeatedly asking him to give her insulin injections. She lapsed into a coma, never recovered from the overdose, and Sammy is then confronted or confined to a mental hospital. During this conversation, the caller and Leonard talk about Leonard's quest and how the police did not believe the story about the second attacker. And the caller identifies himself as a policeman and provides Leonard with additional clues for his quest. Leonard's tattoos, the fact the second attacker was a drug dealer. The caller identifies the second attacker as Jimmy Garsnitz and tells Leonard that he has a setup meeting with Jimmy. Leonard agrees to meet the caller in the hotel lobby. Natalie, that the second attacker was too smart and left the evidence to look that there was only one intruder. So Natalie tricks Leonard into going after a man named Dodd, who she claims has been harassing her for money for Jimmy's prior drug deals. Leonard leaves to look for Dodd. Teddy is waiting for him as he leaves Natalie's home. Ted tries to warn Leonard about Natalie, but after seeing the "don't believe his lies" note on Teddy's picture, Leonard does not believe him. Leonard does decide he shouldn't stay with Natalie and follows Teddy's advice to go to the discount inn. So Leonard's there at the discount inn, though Leonard has already paid for a room. Bert at the front desk takes advantage of his condition by renting him a second room. Leonard calls an escort service. While the escort service arrives, Leonard explains to her that he wants only to relive going to sleep the night of the attack. After falling asleep, the escort wakes him. He asks the escort to leave, and then he then takes personal items belonging to his wife to a reservoir and then burns them. In the morning, Leonard leaves the reservoir and is spotted by Dodd. Leonard escapes Dodd and goes to Dodd's motel to wait for him. That's when Dodd returns to his motel room. Leonard beats him and ties him up. Leonard calls Teddy for help in dealing with Todd. Teddy comes to Todd's motel room, and Leonard and Ted convince Todd to leave town, returning the favor of getting rid of Dodd. Leonard spends the night at Natalie's. In the morning, she agrees to trace the license plate number tattooed on Leonard's leg. Later that day, Natalie gives him the information along with directions to an abandoned place outside of town where a guy she knew used to do bigger deals. Leonard takes it back to his motel, and at the motel, in his room, Leonard puts the clues together and concludes that Teddy is John Edward Glammy and must be the second attacker. He calls Teddy, and they go to the same abandoned building where Jimmy was killed a few days earlier. And then that's when Leonard shoots Teddy in the head. So like I said, this movie, I was trying to write it down and trying to put it in chronological order for everybody. The problem with all of that is I don't think I do it justice. I don't think that the film has to be viewed, not the way that I just tried to rattle it off to you. I think you're going to appreciate the film much better than me trying to explain it in chronological order because of the amnesia. It fits very well in terms of that. So let me give you a couple goofs, mistakes that I've seen on this. And then what we'll do is I'm going to give you a overview of what I thought of the film. So some of the goofs. Audio, when Leonard and Teddy are in the diner, Teddy says, "What about John G? You think he's still here?" When the scene cuts back to Leonard, the line, "You think he's still here," is heard, but Teddy's mouth isn't moving. So again, kind of I don't know, just again, a trivia, some goofs in the film. Character error. In the two scenes where Sammy is administering insulin to his wife, he is placing the needle in the crook of her arm as if mainlining it. Insulin is never injected at the site, but rather at the back of the bicep. The other shot is in the stomach or in the thigh, which would be the correct places. In the Jaguar, Teddy gives Leonard the address to the discount inn. Teddy met Leonard at the motel earlier and therefore knows where that he is already staying there. Leonard did not check out when they left and should therefore have both a picture and the key to the room 21 in his possession. So again, when you're looking at this movie, he has to look at clues in order to be able to tell him what he's doing and where he's at. After fleeing Dodd while driving to the hotel, Leonard is reading the description that Natalie wrote down for him. You hear him thinking what she's written down. He says that Dodd is staying at the Mount Crest Inn, yet it is written as Montrust Inn. So Mont Crest, Mont Interest Inn, just a little typo, if you will, but nevertheless, kind of a goof in the movie. At the diner where Natalie gives Leonard the envelope with John G's driver's license, he leaves it on the table. When he goes to the bathroom, Leonard would never have left the envelope on the table since he knows that he will forget about the envelope when he exits the bathroom because of his inability to make new memories, along with which table he was sitting at or who he was meeting with. A waiter has to hand an envelope to him. In terms of that. So again, just a couple things in terms of that. Natalie's handwriting is different in each of its appearances. The writing on Freddy's bar coaster switches between print and cursive, and the invitation to the City Grill is another kind of print. However, this could be another demonstration of the inability of Leonard's memory. So not necessarily a goof, but more of an illustration. Some plot holes, just really quick. When Leonard is sitting in his pickup, writing down Ted's license plate number, he writes fact 6 without checking how many other facts there are first. Leonard goes to the discount inn and the manager takes him to room 303. When Leonard realizes that this is not his room and the manager admits to also renting him a room 304 because the business was slow, Leonard calls the manager Bert. In this particular entire sequence, Bert has no name tag, nor does he mention his name whatsoever. Let's see here. Natalie apparently rides home from the bar with Leonard, yet her car is already home. During the confirmation between Leonard and Teddy after Leonard has killed Jimmy, Leonard mentions the $200,000 in Jimmy's car. However, at this point, he has already forgotten about killing Jimmy, so he should have already forgotten about the money as Teddy doesn't mention it. Let's see here. Some spoilers here in a couple of places, such as after Jimmy is killed, the Polaroid camera does not make the correct motor noise. Again, just some goofy little things there to keep in mind. Let's see here. There's just all kinds of different things. I don't know. Hopefully you guys enjoy some of these goofs. I don't want to bore you and take away from the whole movie. When Natalie asked Leonard to give back her shirt that he mistaken as his own, Leonard's wearing a man shirt. The location of the buttonholes give it away. However, Leonard would have struggled doing up the buttons on a lady's shirt because they're a little different in terms of that. So a little bit of some of the goofs that we found in the movie Memento. Overall, I would say that I really enjoyed this movie for a couple reasons. One, it was different in the sense that it's not your typical movie, not a movie that you're going to see, like I said, in chronological order. And that can be a little bit confusing for some. If you're not somebody that was getting ready to go into that type of movie or that type of mindset, I could see where this could maybe throw you off. If you wasn't paying attention, you could be completely lost in the film. So I could see that being a negative, but it's also something that I think is different, and that's what is very appealing about this particular film. That it's different, and it's just different. And like I said, you have to be focused in order to pay attention to this film. Guy Pearce, I think, does a wonderful job as Leonard in the film. He does just a wonderful job. I think Christopher Lloyd does a great job, not only in the writing of it, but also with his direction, or being the director in the way that he filmed the movie. All that added up to really I think, a nice movie. Something that, again, like I said, was different. A lot of the critics would agree that it was a well-done movie. It was something that was different. And what's really amazing that, this is week 2 that we're talking about Christopher Nolan, and he's been able to really do 2 wonderful movies on very low budget. I think that really talks to the skill as a director and the way his imagination works. I think that all is a plus, and really helps drive this movie to where it is as a film. So I think doing really just a wonderful job in that process. Were there some negatives about it? Not really. I like the way that he used color versus black and white, because I think that really helped focus with the movie, where what was going forward, what was being played in chronicle reverse order. I think that all helped out in that process. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being terrible and 10 being out of the park, I'm going to give this a 7. Just really a good movie. Like I said, Guy Pearce did a wonderful job on this, and it was just it's a different type of movie. I can't stress that enough. It's not going to be chronological, and I can't say that enough about this film. But I think it's important. If you're looking for a movie that's going to put things in order, this is not your film. But if you come in with an open mind and you stay focused, it's not something that you need to be looking down at your phone. It's not going to be somebody talking to you in the process, because if you're watching it on DVD or something, hit pause, go to the restroom, go to the kitchen, do what you got to do, and then come back and watch it. Because if you just walk away from